Welcome back to Filter Free. Y'all already see what type of mood we in today. As you can see, we got a full cast. The last time we filmed, we was missing the R&B monk, so welcome back, Walt.
Hey.
As y'all see, we also brought back the one and only Mr. James.
Yes,
James. And then you know the rest of us. Beacon, Conjo, Blue, and your boy TL. So, I've been going over the footage, reading a lot of the messages that we've received from you guys. And one of the things that I've noticed as a common theme between all the shows that you have and have not yet seen is toxicity, whether it be toxic masculinity, just a toxic culture. So since that seems to be something that we seem to enjoy, and we really got all
We enjoy our toxicity.
We enjoy that.
I figured today we would kind of get into that bag. I really want to, as they say, get to the shits this week.
All right,
What's the button? Oh.
So, because of that, first of all, before we get into all this, how y'all doing? Everybody good?
We good.
Everybody's
Corona free.
No
Yeah.
cough. No
Everybody's
cough.
Corona
Yeah, we know
free.
it.
Free.
We definitely are. Jesus.
Just kidding.
Corona free.
Just kidding.
No, but for real, have y'all noticed people are scared to cough? Like, it don't matter. It can just be a tickle in your
Yeah,
throat.
because
Folks are
Somebody cough. I'm
I choked
do it again. Do it again.
I choked on the fucking
Get one.
thinking about it.
And stop this shit
And
to
coughed. And this dude looked at me like I was trying to kill him. I'm like, it's food. It's not even. I'm like, I'm literally choking on an object. Like, not.
Now can you help me right now, please?
Yeah, nah. And trying to shake this older dude's hand, same thing. You know, we were exchanging books, and I went to shake his hand like, "Thank you very much," and he's like, "I fit that demographic that they're talking about on TV.
Exactly.
I'm 50 and over."
Exactly.
Yeah, nah, we don't elbow bump.
All right, my bad.
Smart man.
I mean, which is true. We did the kid and play when you got here today.
Yeah, I'm on it now.
So,
I learned my lesson.
These players way ahead of their time.
way ahead of their time.
Good stuff.
But no, I'm glad everybody's doing good. Before we get started, though, we do have some great news. The homie Beacon over here.
Oh,
Matter of
yeah.
fact, can you please stand up so they can see you?
Hold on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's got too much leg showing here.
So
Too much anger.
I don't know if y'all can properly see,
Exciting.
but we got the new line, a Kingdom Crew.
Yes,
coming
sir.
from Beacon.
Thank you.
So in the description, y'all will see the website, so y'all can go get your hoodies, t-shirts, whatever, hats, whatever. Yeah, matter of fact, you tell them about it. It's you.
Yeah, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, Christian inspirational line of apparel just to make people feel good. Represent. I say wear your faith. That's our motto. Whatever you believe, you can find stuff on there that's gonna make you feel good. So just check out the website, kingdomcrewclothing.com.
Yeah,
There it is.
It's feel good music. I mean, feel good clothing. It's dope.
Yeah,
We like to support our homies.
that's right. So
So we gonna let them give us some shirts for free.
Yeah, that's how we.
that's how we support the homies.
To support the homies. We need to talk about that on the show.
Okay. If y'all need a vocal coach, y'all get to holler at Mr. James,
And a songwriting extraordinaire.
songwriter,
Extraordinaire.
extraordinaire.
Gifted with a lifetime of melody.
Okay.
Ooh.
I like that. Okay.
I've heard the man Smith. I've heard him smith some melodies. Man.
All right.
He is able to smith some melodies.
Let's see
All
what
I'm
else.
saying.
What else we got on the panel? Are you fat? Do you hate to exercise? Are you lonely at night? Do you need to get in shape? If so, holla at Conjo Hakeem.
Are you fat?
Do you have the coronavirus? Holla at Conjo. He has an herbal remedy to get you right. No, I'm playing. But no, seriously, if you need to get in
I
shape,
would get rich if I really did.
right? But if you need to get in shape,
That's right.
mentally, physically, financially.
Financially, spiritually.
Okay, I didn't throw in the spiritually, but okay,
Why?
cool.
I mean,
Listen,
Why? I'm multifaceted
we'll start with the
spirituality.
we'll work our way up.
Start with the body. Let's
Work our way.
But no,
I'm a multifaceted spiritualist.
Okay.
okay, so
we all got slogans.
yeah, we all got slogans. I'm with it.
We all got slogans.
Y'all got stuff. Do I? I don't think I. Oh yeah, make music better. Yes, I do.
See, and then you have super producer,
Illustrious.
photographer, videographer, model, screenwriter. He does it all.
But don't hit him up because y'all can't afford him. I'm playing.
Wow.
I'm playing.
Well, hit him up first and get your finances right.
And then it's a funnel. It's a funnel.
Financially fit, then you come see me.
Financially fit, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you need some guidance, a little life coaching, some spiritual uplifting,
Come on.
if you have a goal in life to learn how to levitate with the best, come holler at Joaquin.
Yep, there it is.
If you need to be told about yourself.
Holler at Joaquin. If you need somebody to pray for you, holler at everybody but Joaquin.
Don't call me. You know what I'm saying? Don't call me. You know what I'm saying? I pray for all of y'all every day, so it's cool.
Okay. And yeah, then it's back to me, your moderator. All you need is a dad, because I'm delivered, anointed, and blessed. Now let's get to the show.
All right.
Well, excuse me. We really do all have a slogan.
Yeah, mine is messages to self.
Yeah, it is.
And the other people.
Yeah, I got messages
For
for
all
you
y'all.
that are also for me. That's why it's called messages to self.
My man.
All right, no advice I give you is something I don't think I need to take myself. So
Get down.
That's kind of awesome.
Another part of me.
oh, he sings too.
Come on.
Everybody on this cast sings except for me.
You know you.
Oh man, it's so good to hear you say that.
He sings.
He
We
said.
don't know
I
if
make
he
a
should.
joyful noise unto the Lord.
Come on.
I sing in the
That's all-
background,
that's all that
hallelujah.
matters. That's
I can
all
play
that
the tambourine,
That's all right.
congos for you.
And memories.
Listen, hey, I can't play memories by heart. All right. Nevertheless, let's get to the show. So, it's called Toxicity. Normally, when we talk, we are addressing toxic masculinity from that aspect, just kind of with how society is, right? So, when I decided to change this from the original topic, it really made me think. Because we throw around words all the time like love, friends, and in my opinion, the way that people act, they clearly have no idea what those words mean. So, before I could jump into toxic masculinity, I took the time to break down what's toxic mean, what does masculinity mean, and then what does toxic masculinity mean. Because I think,
Go ahead, Trey.
yeah, like I told you, I came prepared. So, what is toxic? I want y'all to get, y'all know what toxic is?
Poisonous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
There you go.
Unhealthy.
Detrimental to one's well-being.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Detrimental is a good one.
Okay.
Final answer.
So, toxic when it comes to a personality trait, is an adjective used to describe usually very negative people. They had some examples or whatever, but that person spreads unnecessary hate or just talks a lot of trash about other people. So that's what toxic means. Masculinity. Y'all know what that means.
I should hope all of us do.
I will hope you do.
Yeah.
Masculinity is the quality of manliness.
Quality of manliness.
Okay.
Quality of
That's
man.
good.
Habits and traits that society considers to be appropriate for a man. Now, some typical traits of masculinity include physical strength, a muscular body, and facial hair.
Concept, basically.
The Latin root of masculinity is masculinus, or male, which comes from masculus, or worthy of a male. So,
Interesting.
yeah, like,
Worthy of a male?
That's deep.
that's deep.
That's,
I'm assuming it
that's
means
probably
being worthy
not
of association.
exactly how that should be worded.
Okay.
We'll move on.
All right. What is toxic masculinity?
Something that demasculates you, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the society's idea of it is basically like a male that's out of balance.
Okay.
You don't have any balance. You're too far in one direction. It's more
Okay.
like,
Yeah. I think it's like using your masculinity in a way that is toxic.
Toxic.
too.
There you go.
That's better.
Because one of the key words that you used in there was appropriate.
Right.
So it's using your masculinity in a way that's inappropriate.
Ah.
Look at you. Okay.
Well, how do we do that?
or harmful to the general population, maybe.
So,
How do we do that?
well, let me read you the definition of toxic masculinity. It may be able to assist in
Lentity.
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 Nice.
Masculinity.
So,
You talking about titties, what?
toxic
That's
masculinity
toxic. You should-
is a social
That's
science
toxic
term
masculinity.
that describes narrow, repressive types of ideas about the male gender role that defines masculinity as exaggerated masculine traits like being violent, unemotional, sexually aggressive, and so forth. Also suggests that men who act too emotional or maybe aren't violent enough or don't do all of the things that real men do, can get their man card taken away.
I think it's important to not necessarily take this
Literal.
like it's God. That's-
Right.
Right.
I don't know who said
This
that.
ain't from
So,
Merriam-Webster, so
This
we're
is
not-
and only Miriam tell me what to do.
Not Webster.
Not even Webster.
I
They
went to
don't always agree.
Merriam-Webster. I went to Webster. I went to dictionary.com
Kind of get a broad
to
view.
get a broad view.
Yeah, because
and
it
then I
said-
went to a couple other places to kind of that were more culture specific.
Well,
Hey,
To
yeah,
get-
because that's that man.
yeah,
card.
because
That
it
was
said it defined masculinity.
I knew that was black.
We know
You
that
said
culture.
man card.
You said man card, yeah. It defined masculinity as what society deems as appropriate.
Right.
Right? So that means we're not really talking about actual masculinity. We're not talking about what makes a man a man.
Right.
We're talking about what makes a man seem like a man to society.
Within the
And
frame.
this
That's what
society
that
in
definition
particular,
is.
specifically,
Right,
like
right.
American society, you know,
Yeah,
we're
this
not
is
really even discussing what it is in other cultures.
there's other cultures that don't feel like that a man is that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Good
So
point,
it
good
seems
point.
like a very here and very specific to our
To
culture,
our culture. So
way of looking at it.
when I broke those down, I was like, so what's the difference between masculinity and toxic masculinity? And it says masculinity is real, natural, and biological. Toxic masculinity is a performance invented to reinforce it.
Ooh, I love that. Performance invented.
It
Can you read it
negates
again?
what
Performance
was said
invented.
before that, but it is good.
So masculinity is real, natural, and biological. Toxic masculinity is a performance invented to reinforce it.
Ooh.
Okay, so we're gonna throw out the
Yeah,
first
that's
definition
so
of
good.
masculinity because that's not the same thing.
Okay.
The first
No, it's
definition of
not.
masculinity was perceived masculinity.
Right.
This one is actual masculinity. So
Right.
we got, what are we? Are we talking about perceived masculinity, or are we splitting them up and talking about both? 'Cause
I think we should do that.
I think we
that makes
should.
sense.
So
yeah, because actual masculinity is what makes a man a man.
right.
But
Naturally.
Right.
yeah, just because you are a man,
Right.
genetically you're predisposed to these things. It's not something you decide, right? But masculinity, when it comes to culture and what it perceives to be masculine, can be anything the culture conceives to be masculine.
Yeah.
You know, violence until you're too violent, and then
What's the line of
you know, or being in touch with your emotions until you start crying. You know what I'm saying? Like it's whatever
look at
people.
colors. Look at color. Like pink is feminine.
Right.
You know,
Right.
blue.
I
or
personally
green
enjoy
or black
pink.
is.
I love pink.
Toys.
Yeah, I love pink too.
I think pink is awesome.
Pink
So-
is
I do
awesome.
too. But that's
Okay,
how
so-
we're all real men.
Yes,
So we're not
So you was like,
afraid of it.
I'm afraid of pink.
Yeah.
no, but you were saying, you know, you mentioned men crying.
Yeah.
Is that a weakness? Is that something?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
No.
But toxic masculinity would say that it
Would
is.
suggest.
That's a key element of toxic masculinity.
So then, toxic masculinity can be toxic for the man himself or for others.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's, for me, it's the opposite of what the average person thinks is weak. I think toxic males are very fragile.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think they're much
Yeah.
weaker than somebody who's balanced, who's in touch with
Right.
their emotions.
Right.
Because they break, they snap all the time. All these things we see on TV or on social media about a guy flipping out and killing his entire family, or it's never a woman. It's never a woman. It's never you're not gonna see the story where this woman flipped out and killed all her kids,
But that's
and then murdered the husband.
But it's
and
also
murdered the-
rarely.
I mean, like, find out your woman cheated on you and you're too fragile to deal with, so now you have to kill her. Or
Yeah, the
go-
difference between black people is
Okay.
we actually need a reason. We need something to happen to make us angry enough to do it. It's
Yeah,
not us
absolutely.
we just do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's
I don't want to like limit this to a race
Yeah, because
conversation. We're talking about
really
masculinity.
not.
and
It's
we're
really
talking
not.
about toxic masculinity.
If a black dude ain't going out killing his whole family, he's doing something else. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
But
we can all be-
we could make it not a racial thing, but a cultural thing, because is there more pressure in the black community to be more masculine in certain ways?
Okay, now that right there, yeah.
Definitely think that.
I would agree.
Especially in certain atmospheres and certain
For sure.
concrete spaces and urban areas, what
Right.
we call them, where we
Right.
have to hold the face. We talked about this the other day, and not smile, and I'm naturally smiling. I'm like wondering why am I fine? I feel fine, but
Right.
because the energy that surrounds you is conducive for that. You can't look soft, so you must put on
Right.
this
The facade.
thing,
Yeah.
you know, and that's a
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that grew up in those areas, like myself, I mean, you learn to be, you don't want to be too approachable.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to look too happy because first of all,
What's wrong with
first of all, nobody happy like that, and so
Yeah.
anyone who is happy is a magnet for jealousy. Because what are you so happy for? Let me take your shoes.
Absolutely.
You might be happy because of those shoes.
Mhm.
Maybe those shoes will make me happy,
Mm.
and it'll make you less happy. 2-for-1 deal. Give me your shoes.
Do you think that's a
That's
subconscious
real.
thing? Do you think that's just like you see somebody else in a happy space and you don't even know what it is, but on subconscious level,
Oh,
you
for
just
sure.
feel like,
Yeah.
They don't know that. They don't process that. They're not thinking. I'm unhappy.
you know what I'm saying?
I think I'll still. No.
Yeah.
That's just how it works out there. It's like
You're
don't
happy
walk
you
around
must
with
have
blue
something?
J's in the ghetto. You don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
You know not to do that, and you know not to take that TV box in through the front door.
And
Yep.
don't leave it out.
Like there's
Trash,
things
don't
that
leave
you
it
know
front.
from being in the ghetto that are part of that culture that aren't really talked about.
Mhm.
But you can't show, like, the people that come into your house and see your new TV need to be people that you can trust.
Yeah.
Don't bring nobody with you that I don't know because it will end up missing. So you basically learn how to subdue
Mhm.
positive emotion
Right.
in order to survive.
Yeah.
And then you get into a place when you get older where you're not there anymore, but you grew up there. And what happens during your formative years has a lot to do with how you're going to act when you grow up. You can't just remove yourself to how you were formed
Yeah.
from how you were formed. So now you just trying not to be a happy person in a happy environment and really don't know how to handle that.
Yeah, and not only, to piggyback on that, not only are you repressing yourself emotionally, but you're also, we grow up in a society where it's like everything's capitalism. Nobody's really talking about emotional health. I mean, now it's kind of like we're kind of getting into it now with mental health and stuff like that, where it's being popularized to go to like see a psychiatrist or whatever, or see a therapist. But you're not really given tools to deal with the negative circumstances, the negative experiences, the negative emotions. Nobody's ever talking to you about how to process that stuff. In Western culture, in particular, in other cultures, yes, but not really here. We don't really get into like how do you deal with rejection.
Right.
Like nobody, we don't have that conversation growing up. It's just work hard and become successful. Nobody's ever telling you what to do if you fail at it or whatever.
Right.
Just get back up and keep going. It's like, we don't really get those talks. So while you're also repressing these emotions and trying not to be too happy in front of people, you're also not being given any tools to deal with the negative emotion. So it's kind of like a double whammy on both sides. You're just getting
This is one other thing that goes along with that. I think is like that success mindset of like just being relentlessly driven is it creates competition.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the most detrimental things that I see in all communities, especially the black community, is that we treat each other like competitors.
Yeah.
And that's a part of our manliness, is the fellowship with other men. Like there's so much I learn from y'all on a regular basis that I carry into the rest of my existence that blesses my life. If we were competitors, based off this
Right.
weird and weak mindset, distorted mindset that we have, then we miss out on all that.
And being competitors, it makes less of an opportunity to collaborate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which is
That's-
what it takes to make it.
Exactly.
So
It's literally what it takes.
And-
Nobody gets anywhere by themselves.
And
Right.
talking about, this go-getter mentality, how you have to keep going and keep working. Nobody's telling you how to sustain that.
Right.
There's something that you have to have the energy to keep working. Nobody's talking about how to keep your cup full. Like, it's just-
The other night, I had mentioned to you guys that a couple of you guys or whatever. I was like, I noticed the older I get, the softer I become.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So
For sure.
So the question is,
For sure.
is it that we're becoming softer, or is it that we're just
We're
shedding
shedding,
the
yeah.
toxic traits that we learned
Mm.
or gravitated to
We've
when
also
we were younger?
had the opportunity to move into other environments where we don't need the stuff anymore.
And
If I was
Yeah.
still in the hood, I wouldn't be becoming softer.
Right.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
Because I was like,
Yeah.
because Conjo teases me, he's like, Trey, you're like, you don't never cry. Like, it is rare. But if I put on a Disney movie, I be watching
Coco.
Rescue 911.
Nah, Coco, man.
Yo, I ain't even gonna lie, I be in the house.
Coco did me dirty.
I have seen The Lion King 1,000 times, and every time, like, I know Mufasa's about to get it.
You know it.
I was like, no!
You know.
all when Mister's beating Celia, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh man, Mister, man.
But it's also part of the shedding of that masculinity as we get older due to societal pressures when it comes down to dealing with women. Because I noticed that girls, when they're younger, they like the bad boy. And most of what we do in life is geared towards, trying to find love and trying to find acceptance from the opposite sex.
So,
And so I noticed that when I was younger, I've always had a big heart, but I pretended to be the bad boy so I could get the girls.
Me too.
You know what I'm saying?
well, I think that feeds into your toxic masculinity,
Right.
because that you were attracted to toxic women.
I don't think it's just toxic women. When I was a kid, I was literally, I started writing when I was like 5, writing poetry. And so I was like the poetry guy. Like literally would go to school and whenever they had an assembly or whatever, they would have me come up and read a poem, right? So people thought that was cool, but that wasn't like attractive. As like a poetry kid.
Right.
So like I literally, the turning point for me was I was dating a girl, and I was being super sweet, my normal, poetry writing guy or whatever. And she dumped me, and then she started dating an athlete. And me being an intelligent person, I looked at the traits, like the difference between me and the guy she was dating,
Right.
and I'm like, oh, that's what society has taught women is attractive.
Right.
And so then I adapted. So now I started calling myself a player or whatever. Like I would literally get numbers, like to the point where I had like on my bedroom floor there's just numbers thrown about. And I would walk in.
Thrown about.
It sounds crazy. I would walk in with the lights off and throw the numbers in the air. and then turn the lights on. You know what I'm saying? And be like, oh, but I never called
That's
them.
hilarious.
I never called any of the women. It was
Definitely
me
toxic masculinity.
just like trying to copy, learn what it was to be a man. And since my father really didn't have that conversation with me, I was learning by osmosis, like just being around. Like, okay, look at what this guy's doing. Let me see how people respond to how he's moving. Okay, I'm gonna start adopting these traits.
Yeah.
Even when it comes down to like sex talk, I never really had a sex talk. My dad didn't say, respect your body, respect her body, blah blah blah. I got wear a condom.
I get that one.
Wear a condom and don't tell them you love them. Like that was dope.
Don't look at them in the eye. If you look at them in the eyes, they gonna stay on you.
So now when I'm in the locker room with the dudes, I'm getting a sex education about how to interact with women from other young boys who have no idea. And they learned all that stuff from porn. You know what I'm saying? They
Porn have you messed up.
They will.
I had a girl
They're
messed up
actors.
too, because
You know what I'm
like,
saying?
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
She's like, whoa.
Yeah, so you're getting all this stuff. You're getting taught by society as opposed
Exactly.
to a male figure who's giving you the game, who already evolved themselves and being able to instill in you the proper things. And I really think that's like the root of toxic masculinity. It's popular.
I can't speak for women, but I think that young women are also getting that same kind of lesson from each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're supporting the toxicity
Absolutely.
growing up.
Let me ask this question then. You never hear it, right? But is there like a such thing as like toxic femininity?
Absolutely.
Like
I'm sure there is.
because we hear about black on black crime, but they don't ever say white on white, Asian on Asian, and we understand why they do that. So I'm not going to delve into that.
Yeah, that's not good.
But I'm just like, but when they speak, 'cause I see women who exhibit very masculine or toxic masculine traits, but at least I don't hear women get called out for it.
Well, see, the issue
Like
would
men
be
do.
that still would be if they're exhibiting masculine traits, that's still toxic masculinity. It's just a woman that's exhibiting these masculine traits, right? So when you're talking about toxic femininity, if that's a thing, we're gonna come up with that term. It would need to be an entirely different like schematic. It would have to be something completely different, and you're not really probably gonna hear that just because it's probably not as destructive as toxic masculinity. Because toxic masculinity is aggression. It's not assertiveness; it's aggression. It's really like the like underlying thing of a patriarchal society where men are being taught to dominate other men and dominate their marketplace and dominate.
Let's argue that for a minute, because you have a situation like, and I've seen this on social media in multiple places, right? Like they always had like the little cartoon memes or what have you. You have a girl who grew up with a single mom, whose mom was aggressive towards her guy, and that's what she grew up seeing. So now when she got older and she's in her relationship, she's doing the exact same thing, yelling and screaming at her man, stuff like that. So you see what I'm saying? So I don't. Yes.
I think a big part, and of course this is a very brand new idea that I've never seen anybody talk about. So we might need to talk about it more. But I think one thing we have to understand is the reason why. What's the word that I want to use? I think the reason why women do some negative things, we have to remember, is because men aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
So it so much depends on us being who we're supposed to be
Okay.
in the world, that when we're not right, we cause these rifts that trickle down and affect so many other people, men
And come
and
back
women.
to us.
Yeah, we're
Right.
in a we're in a patriarchal society, not a matriarchal
Right.
society.
No,
and so
I
that's
definitely
really what
I
we're
agree
doing.
with that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
cut
you
you
good.
off. But no, I definitely agree with that. You know what I mean? Like,
And this has been hundreds and hundreds
yeah,
and
but I
hundreds
mean,
of years.
Yeah.
we've had a few conversations so far where it all kind of stems to the exact same thing. If there is a problem, I'm sorry.
It ain't no song called "Woman in the Mirror." It's really what we're trying to say here. Because we live in a patriarchal society, so we don't necessarily encourage the woman to look at herself the way we encourage the man to look at himself. And part of that is appropriate. Like, it's easy to say, well, yeah, it's a double standard. Again, like I said in the earlier episode, the word man comes from a word that means to initiate, right? So if we're the ones that are supposed to initiate, and those are the ones who are built to respond, there's a lot of clues that this stuff is real. You can say what you want, but biologically, there's a whole lot of clues that a man is supposed to initiate, and a woman is built to respond. So if that's the case, how she's responding has to have something to do with what was initiated.
Or the lack of initiation.
Right.
Right.
That's actually maybe even worse.
Right. And
Because that's one of the most frustrating things for a woman.
Right.
Is
She's
for
gotta-
nothing to be
She's got to
initiated.
step up into the masculine.
She doesn't have a nature until something is initiated. You can't respond to nothing.
Right.
So if a man's not being a man literally, then a woman can't be a woman. So we have to take responsibility where that's concerned.
And then also considering that like 99% of the leadership roles in our society are held by men.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make sense for us to be looking at. I mean, sure, women work on yourselves, and yes, we encourage you to
Absolutely.
do some work, but it's probably more important for us to be focusing on.
Well, to
people who are
some
in leadership.
extent, since our natures are what they are, you actually won't know how much is the woman's fault until you fix what's your fault.
Right, and then now you remove yourself from the equation.
When
And say,
you
okay,
rem-
actually,
yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Now you know how much is actually what the woman does naturally and not what she does because of you.
Right.
The only way to separate that is to fix what's wrong with the man.
But
So
you have
we
to
just
be
got
able
to take
you have to be able to acknowledge that there is something that needs to be fixed.
And not to do that would be toxic masculinity.
I think toxicity is really just imbalance. Like it just comes for me. It comes back to it. Like if you're a balanced individual, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you're likely not going to be a detriment to society. I just think when you get too far one way or too far the other, that's when we get into these problems where, you're aggressive is okay, but if you're too aggressive, now you're out of balance. Now you're like all the way over here.
How do you determine whether water is toxic or not? You change the pH. You change the pH. You balance. It's like nature will tell you.
Absolutely.
It's not toxic if the pH is here. And the only way to do that is to push it to one side or the other and into the right range where everything's okay. We got to do that with our characters. And we don't always want to do that because we have to admit, ooh, I did something wrong.
I'm going to play devil's advocate real quick.
Hey!
That's
I think at this point you don't even have to announce that anymore.
He's like, I'm gonna be myself real quick.
Because I know everyone's going to disagree with me. But I don't believe that a woman's nature is based on a man. I believe that a woman has her own nature and her own responsibility to be what she has naturally been created to be. I don't believe that a man is part of that.
So I'm glad you said, are you gonna play devil's advocate? Sorry. Devil's advocate, I guess it would be. I'm an angel. No,
I don't actually think that's an argument against that.
Yeah, see, just based off of what you said, like I disagree with that because
Both coexist.
Yeah,
Both can
they
exist.
coexist.
In the interaction between male and female, we are the initiators. It doesn't mean that a woman doesn't have a purpose outside of a man. Those are two separate issues, which are both true.
I think what the confusion is that the difference between man and masculine. So there's like women who exhibit masculine traits and there's men who exhibit feminine traits. So it's not necessarily like just because this man has a penis, he's going to initiate. If he has feminine, if he's leaning towards feminine characteristics or traits or whatever, he's not going to be the initiator in an exchange. So it's really not so much man woman. It's more masculine and feminine.
Right.
The masculine energy is forward, and the feminine energy is receptive. It's not necessarily man and woman. It's just that men and women tend to lean one way or the other.
Right.
Like innately.
I agree with that.
And there's exceptions to that all the time. My comment about balance is that we all need a little bit of both.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's important for you to get in touch with your feminine side. Doesn't mean you're trying to become a woman or you're going to be homosexual or whatever it is. It just get in touch with your softer side. Learn how to be soft. Because there's a time to be soft. If you're a man who can't ever be soft, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah,
That's a
really.
What if there's some
That's
guys whose
definitely-
testosterone levels are just through the roof?
Right,
man?
that's chemical.
They're gonna have a hard
That's
time
imbalance.
to.
I don't
That's
think
imbalance.
those men
But-
actually have more testosterone. I think those men have more insecurity.
Insecurities, yeah.
Some men actually have more
But
testosterone.
even if you have more testosterone, you having feminine energy or being able to tap into your feminine side doesn't have anything to necessarily do with your testosterone levels.
We're
It's gonna be
making an
kinda hard,
assumption
though.
that people have a feminine side that is, equivalent to a certain point.
It's
I
the
think
levels.
some men have very high testosterone levels, and some women have very high testosterone
Right.
levels. Those people, you're not going to tell them, oh, you guys got to be soft. This is who they were born to be.
No,
I think you can work on it.
but
You know what I'm saying?
But think about it. Everybody is soft at some point. Like, I don't know too many dudes that go on having sex and they just hard emotionally.
Hey, you don't.
That's why I want to clarify.
Have you watched have
emotionally.
sex?
I know, right?
Not
I don't know what
Not on
the
Pornhub.
data
What's the
collection.
percentage?
Like you was in the closet, like let me see how this dude act.
I just want to know about the research on that.
So there's to bring this up. I'm a twin. I have a twin sister.
Yo.
I didn't know you had a twin.
I have a twin sister. So there's this. From what I hear, I've talked to other twins who are boy-girl twins also. When we're in the womb together, the male out of the boy-girl twins, we get more estrogen than a child that was in the womb by itself would, and the females get more testosterone. And I see it when I'm looking at the boy-girl twins. Like my sister, for example, she has masculine tendencies. She's aggressive, she acts like a dude. You know what I'm saying? When her approach to men or even interaction with women, it's very masculine. She likes to ride motorcycles and play pool, and you know what I'm saying? She's aggressive with chicks. And so when I'm looking at other boy-girl twins, it's the same thing. I see a lot of masculine tendencies in the female, and I think that's based on testosterone levels. It's not saying that you can't overcome that. It's just saying that you got a higher hill to climb than the average person.
Yeah,
Your
you got to be
testosterone-
mindful of that.
But who determines
Right,
what
'cause-
the hill is to climb, though? Like,
If you
Okay, so on that, right? We live in a society that's real full of IG, right? It's a real buzzword society.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because we have these memes and we have these quick pictures that we look, and it's training our minds to look a certain way. So we like buzzwords because toxicity, that's a word that hits people hard. And whoever reads it defines it for themselves. The meme never defines it. It just says, if you're toxic, get out of my life, basically, right?
Okay.
But the balancing idea is almost never there. So those things are more unhealthy to me than they are healthy, because I can define toxicity as whatever bothers me.
right, it's toxic to you.
And usually, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not to say
If you
that.
bother me, you're a toxic person, you need to be out of my life. Well, you could be bringing some things to my attention that I actually need to know or need to change or need to adjust in my character. But that bothers me, so you're a toxic person, get out of my life.
Hence the creation even of this term, which I'm curious about, because 5 years ago,
That wasn't the thing.
Wait,
it
man.
wasn't a thing. So now I know with the Me Too movement and all this other stuff coming about, now we have toxic masculinity. We must address it. And so now what do we do? Like that's
Yeah, few people are defining it, and everyone is talking about it.
Nobody's talking about.
We gotta get rid of that. What?
Well,
Toxic masculinity.
But how?
What's that?
And-
Toxic
But piggybacking on what you were saying, as far as like anything that's toxic to you is against you can let that go. So it's just like
Right.
masculinity, if that's a thing that used to be one thing that was common, and the other thing, another reason that we kind of lose it is because there's no reason, like less jobs are less physical now, and our muscles are not even required as much anymore.
Less manual
And so
labor.
now it's like we can do away with what is deemed masculine. general in a conventional sense.
Mhm.
And so now it's interesting to see that this thing is surfacing. I don't know if y'all.
So, if y'all don't mind, so let's say, because you brought up like the whole relationship thing. I think I asked. I think I might ask both of y'all this the other day. Can you be the toxic person? Like, can you be toxic for yourself?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do we
You
address?
have to be toxic for yourself first in order to be
Right.
toxic to somebody else.
But how do you address that? Let's get to that because
As the person who is toxic,
as the
or
toxic
someone-
person, yeah, like you're the toxic one.
you
so-
have to have some sort of
Self-awareness.
self-awareness. Yeah, you have to have a moment when you realize that you're a detriment to yourself.
Right.
And I don't think that's why it's so important to go to see a therapist.
Okay.
Because a lot of people can't see it. Somebody has to sit down and you trust to tell you about yourself, and they say, "Look, this is how a normal person operates. This is a healthy, functioning
Right.
human,
Right.
and you're operating this way."
Yeah.
And I think I want to revisit what Kanja was saying. You being imbalanced doesn't mean it's unnatural. You're naturally that way. If you naturally have more testosterone, you naturally have more testosterone. It's just learning to have empathy and how to operate in a society with that imbalance or whatever.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
Because that's really what the toxicity is.
There's
It's
a
just-
range.
Yeah, it's how are you affecting the people
Of healthy.
around you is the real
Yeah.
issue.
There's a healthy range, not a healthy place.
Right. It's-
And
There's always a healthy range.
And there's always got to be an awareness of the physical, which is what we're talking about, and the spiritual.
Right.
Nothing really overrides the spiritual. So, I mean, we can talk about testosterone levels, estrogen levels, but the physical is where change is really going to happen and stick.
Right.
And then it can become.
And on the emotional level, because I think that's a critical part of it as well. Like we were having a discussion, you brought up crying, and I was having a discussion with the illustrious Miss Sousa, who mans our show, and we were having a conversation about my uncle.
Who woman's our show?
Who woman's our show?
Come on, James. Yeah, James. Come on, James. It is International Women's Month,
Come
so
on.
we gotta recognize our women. You gotta get that right.
Well,
man.
I
That's the
apologize.
woman behind the camera.
I think what she does with the camera is manage.
It's-
though. I think
It's
I think she mans that
the
For
camera.
the sake of this episode, we can call it womaning. It's not going to feel
Yeah.
like
I feel like
it's
she
going to make
does.
it's going to make the ladies feel good. It's
Yeah.
going to make the ladies feel good.
Well, we were having a very interesting conversation about my dad and my uncles at my grandmother's funeral in 2016. It's your mother around the casket, and they're doing everything they can to not cry.
Wow.
And I'm saying, it's your mother. You should cry.
Yeah.
Not it's okay because Sousa mentioned it being like okay. Okay means we're going to tolerate you.
Right.
It's okay for you to cry,
Right.
tolerate you. But when we say you should cry, like this mechanism, you have tear ducts.
For a
You should cry. It's the release that your body was designed to naturally process through. And so that whole thing was like it was my uncles. They trying to do it's your mother.
Wow.
It's your mother. Go ahead and do that. You should cry.
Right.
You know, if it's any opportunity. So and if we weren't meant to cry, like this whole thing about the tear ducts, and I don't know how females have them, and we just have
Right.
tear ducts, and we just not supposed to cry. But it's even animals. We did have a discussion about animals. Like you see lions and they're fighting in the wild in Natural Geographic. They don't have the mechanism to cry. Like they don't. They can be eaten up. But they won't cry.
Yeah.
There's no mechanism there. We're
Right.
designed to cry.
To release those emotions.
I mean, crying is therapeutic.
It's a
though.
function. It's a bodily function.
Like it's healthy.
It's
Yeah,
supposed
right.
to happen.
It's more than okay.
It's more than okay.
It's natural.
On
On the What Men Need to Know episode, this is before you joined the cast, brother. I'm sorry. But one of the things I said that men need to know is that they need to stop putting their hands on their women. And we all agreed to it, but y'all were like, yo, that's something that shouldn't
Or
even be
anybody's
said.
women.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like, yo, that's something that shouldn't have to be said, right? But then we keep seeing instances and occasions where that's happening. Recently,
I think this is a chance where I get to be devil's advocate.
all
This
right.
almost never happened.
I
I'm
mean, never
excited.
happened.
Taking my role.
I'm excited.
So the baby recently was in the club,
Yeah.
had a little altercation.
Yeah.
That resulted,
Yes.
assault.
that resulted in him,
Altercation, assault.
Semantics.
Tremendous amount of whatever.
semantics. But no, it resulted in him slapping a woman.
Unintended victim.
Yeah,
Who was the wrong-
there was the wrong woman
He hit the
to,
wrong
Could
girl.
to
also
be
be
on the
female.
receiving end of said slappage. Now, my issue with this, well, let me, before I say that, Jay Prince then went on social media and commented on it. And he was like, at what point, as men, especially black men, do we stand up and start checking these young men when they do it to let them know that it's not okay, but more importantly, to protect our women. That should come first and foremost, to protect our women. But then also, like, there was another tape of 15 guys in New York, I think it was.
That was
boys,
crazy.
Teenagers,
young girl.
that beat up a girl, and it's like, so this is what caused Jay Prince to write this letter. It was like, yo, we got to do better. That's unacceptable.
So what happened with the first incident?
Okay, so basically, there were two ladies kind of like standing close together, and one woman, as he's entering the club, reaches over to get I guess she was shooting video or something, trying to like get a close up with her flash. She had her flash on, so she kind of like blinded him and went too far and smacked him, like lightly tapped him on the face.
Okay.
So this is in both of those cases. When we're talking about the thing in New York. Number one, it really wouldn't have mattered if that was a guy or a girl. He said that when the baby said that, he actually said this, that he didn't, even if it was a guy, he would have responded the same way. It wouldn't matter, right? Mm-hmm. In a negative way. What I'm saying is, even if it was a guy, that's not an appropriate level of aggression in response to what happened. Okay. That's the imbalance I'm talking about. Like, why do you have to go to 1,000? It's not an appropriate response. That situation didn't call for you slapping.
So it was an accident.
Yes. It was an accident.
But,
you know what I'm saying?
But it also walk between two security guards. So my thing is,
no
if you want to slap somebody, you should be slapping security for allowing her to be able to get close enough.
I'm just saying, like, we don't even. Yes, let's think about black women and let's take care of our women. But even without that as a factor, anybody who ever was on the receiving end of that slap was wrong. Right. Period. It isn't even about protecting women. It's about, as a man, your appropriate response to your circumstances. Absolutely. Why are 15 of you jumping on a girl? Even if it was a guy, people say, "Oh, it's a girl." If it was a guy, that's still wrong. Yeah. There's still 15 dudes stomping out a human being to get their tennis shoes. That's crazy.
So when it comes to appropriate response for things, now I'm going into my devil's advocate.
Okay, let's do it.
It's a segue, using my stand-up comedy skills to segue into my devil's advocate. So I gotta put the horns on me. So okay, if I step into a cage with a tiger and mess with him, and he mauls me to death, right?
You can't say he
should. Is it the tiger's fault?
No, it's not. That's something I don't believe. So if I
because I knew what the tiger was when I walked in there. And I did something aggressive that will be seen as aggressive by a tiger.
Right.
Is it the tiger's
That's
fault?
different.
So what I'm saying is,
you can't slap somebody.
Most people say there's no time when a man should hit a woman. Period.
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that.
Maybe I'm not trying to save your life.
There's a time for anything. First of all. There's a time for it. When a woman has a gun, she's trying to kill me. Woman have a knife. I'm gonna do whatever it takes not to get shot or stabbed. And ain't nothing wrong with none of that.
Right. What if
she
a woman
knew what
just
I
punches
was
you
before
real hard
she
in your
did.
face?
Did you deserve it?
I gotta walk.
I'm not saying that.
What if when she hit you, it was harder than any man ever hit you?
Right. Right.
What if she's your size?
If a female UFC fighter started beating your ass,
and you know it's gonna result.
She got titties, so I can't.
She ought to be able to receive.
Listen, what if she hit you in the face and she's your size?
Okay.
And you know it's gonna result in her beating your ass.
Right. Then you got.
You know that it's not gonna stop with the punch in the face.
It's always,
she gonna take you down, but she just stomp you out.
Right.
Okay. So the balancing idea is what I'm always about, right? So the society teaches men because society is women. Men are taught by women when they're little, don't you ever put your hands on a woman, right? If a man teaches you don't ever put your hands on women, it's because his mama told him that. So it really comes from the women trying to protect themselves.
Okay. And I think that rule came from perceived
now,
right.
So we get that. I ain't finished, my nigga. Right. So we get that from women and we get that from society. But the balancing idea is no one should be able to do a wrong thing to another human with impunity.
Without repercussions, right?
No one.
Consequences, right.
Man or woman, if you come up to me and you literally start to fight me,
you violate me in some way, right?
I should be able to fight you back because you knew what I was when you started fighting me. So I just got a call this week from a friend who was like, yo, am I in the wrong because a girl spat in his face and kicked him in the nuts And he was like, "What's going on?" When she kicked him in the nuts, he grabbed her neck, not to choke her, but to push her off of him. Right?
Okay.
Pushed her off him and say, "Okay, I'm leaving." And he left. But he felt super bad because he did that. And he felt super bad because he did that because society has ingrained in us, you can't even defend yourself from a woman.
But we got to talk about the origins of that practice, which is a perceived weakness in women. It's the idea that women are just weaker than
you ain't been slapped by the right one.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
My mom told me in 5th grade, I had a little altercation with this girl because I was real smart, so I switched elementary schools. And
Wow, that's a lot of altercation.
no, I didn't switch schools because of her. I switched schools because I got into a program, a special program or whatever, talented gifted program. And when I left, I didn't know the girl had a crush on me. So every day, Monday to Friday, to Monday and Thursday of the next week, for almost 2 weeks, this girl and her friends would jump out behind the bushes with rocks in their purse and beat my ass. Like, it was
I
bad.
don't mean to laugh, but that's crazy. That's a crazy story.
Now I can laugh at it. But at the time, I'm crying, and I had this. I was told the same thing. You never hit a girl. You don't hit a girl.
Yeah.
But then when I came home on that second Thursday, my mom was like, "Look, I know what I told you, but if they do this again," they said, first of all, if you take out the ringleader, everybody else will fall back.
Now you got strategies from the same person that tells you don't you ever put your hands
do
on.
it. But my mom's thing was you can't let people take advantage of you. Like, but in the instance you gave, hey, what if somebody punches you? You as a man, you get hit once. Like you arguing. You know what I'm saying? Like you arguing and she hits you, like you should be man enough to take a step back and walk away. That's what you should be able to do.
Right.
Now, if it is a continuous attack, I don't feel as though, especially you, like you can hit a man and knock the soul out of you. You can't hit
I
him.
think that is it's situational.
Right, yeah, right.
There's no ever any reason I should put my hands on a woman or a child.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Or even a man. Like I like at this point.
My thing is
Because but
restrain, not attack.
I will say when I was in junior high, man, I saw this girl beat this boy up because he did not want to hit a girl.
Crushed him.
She said, boom. He was like, I'm not going to hit a girl. Boom, I'm not going to hit a girl. Before I knew it, she beat this boy so bad. And everybody teased him, even though it was a respectful thing for him to say, yo, I'm not going to hit a girl. She beat him up so bad that everybody teased this poor boy, man, for like almost the whole year.
He was just taking a beating from one female to not take a beating from another one. He was like, I'd rather you than my mama and my grandmama any day.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's just based in a time in society. It comes from a time in society where like women weren't warriors. They weren't seen as warriors or seen as being able to defend themselves or have any type of combat ability. So men were the fighters, hunter gatherer.
And they might even assume that it was initiated by the man. Like the man just got mad and just hit a woman. No, you're never supposed to do that.
Right.
But a woman's never supposed to do that to a man either.
I do want to segue to part of the next part of it when we talk about these young teenage boys that were beating this girl, that jumped this girl as a teenager. Like, I can't ever remember, and I know it's generational as well. And as we move further, people who are like teens now with gender neutrality and all this other stuff
is
that's
changing
going
things
on,
a bit.
It's changing things because you're thinking like, oh, girl and a boy, you're the same thing. No, he's stronger than her at 16 and 17. Like he has, and so if we're allowed, like that clip really disturbed me because it's like 12 boys.
Yeah. It would never have happened to a girl.
When I was growing up, people never did that.
But we move differently when we win. And everything's different.
And it made me to think that if number one, the lack of shame. Like shame doesn't even exist anymore. And that's the whole thing. Like you would feel ashamed, if something if you participate in anything like that. So I think that part of it really, again, this gender neutrality thing, that's a new thing. A girl and a boy is the same thing. All this, and you can be who you want. Like, I think that is blurring the lines, and then we are allowing stuff like that to happen, and that could be okay. It's just
there's a state that just passed a law. I want to say it's Texas, but they just passed a law that even if you're transgendered, you cannot compete in sports with the.
I think that makes sense.
I do too.
I think that makes sense.
I don't even know why you have to.
It's an unfair advantage or disadvantage.
Because you have testosterone.
Straight up. Build muscle better.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like having steroids.
Yeah.
It's the
I
same
think a
thing.
man should respect his own power enough to be cognizant of that when you are in an altercation with a weaker party, with a physically weaker party.
Right.
There's no weapons involved.
It's just
There's just me and you, and we're fighting.
Yeah.
I'm a man.
Yo, they took her.
But the-
shoes.
So I'm gonna try to
Yo, they
respect.
took her shoes.
It's a matter of defense, not a matter of offense.
were you gonna wear them?
The key
When it
word.
becomes offense is when it becomes.
The key word that you said, though, man, it's just, conversations like this, whether we take them there or not, will always go to this place, whether we want to admit it or not. The key word is cognizant.
Yeah.
You're being
People
aware.
are not aware of how twisted we are, how broken we are, how evil we can be, how hurtful and harmful we can be.
Is it that they're not aware? Or is it that they don't care?
Both.
Because both.
But no, because
Because they don't see it as twisted.
Right, they see it as normal. We normalize what you saw, those young boys jumping that girl, that's normal to them.
That's
They had to believe in that moment, they
okay.
fully believed that this was okay.
and there was no shame around.
They
It was
fully believed it.
that's-
That's got to tell you something.
So now my question to you is, where did that come from? Because you can't
Man.
blame it on the radio because you don't really hear. Hey,
It's
go
a
beat
lot
your
of
woman.
It's society.
Music.
It's a
a lot of
cultural
things.
norm for
It's-
men to be aggressive.
But
and
what I'm
violent.
saying is, you know how anything else. Oh, these people are shooting up schools, for instance, right? Oh, it's the rap music. It's this, it's that, right? But I don't see what it is in our society that's enforcing. Hey, this is okay for you to do. Like putting it on a platform, like yo,
Yeah, ain't no
beating
rap
our
songs
women-
for that.
We
beating
encourage.
our women is cool.
It's not
And
the
then
women.
when you beat your girl, beat a woman,
Uh,
like
Well,
the-
the issue was for me is that in society, even when we're getting the whole "don't hit women," we're just being told "don't hit women." We're not saying don't. If you're physically stronger than an individual, you shouldn't be taking it out on them or being violent towards them. So that rule only applied to women. It didn't apply to weaker men. It was cool for you to whoop a weaker man, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't cool.
Right.
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 So the idea, the lesson was just
It's a
twisted. It
principle
should have
we're
been,
dealing with.
hey, if you're the
Yeah.
stronger person, you should be cognizant of that and consider those things with your interactions with weaker individuals, perceived weaker
And hey,
individuals.
that's a good thing to talk about because it's a principle that you just said that applies to many things other than a man fighting a woman or anybody fighting anybody. Anytime that you know that you're stronger at something or you're stronger in something emotionally than someone else is, be cognizant of the fact that they haven't reached that point yet. And there's things that you'll do and there's decisions that you'll make that are different because everybody doesn't have to be where I am emotionally or where I am physically. I can take into account they're not there yet. So let me just be a little more kind to them because they can't handle the truth.
And well, you know, but this
the
is,
way that I want to say it.
this
you
is
know,
good relationship
because-
advice though. This is
Yeah.
like a universal thing. It's something that so I've been with my wife for a very long time now. Since 2008, we've been married for 9 years. We got married in 2011. But again, that doesn't happen. Something I talk to people about with that, thank you very much, is you're not riding the wave of love from the beginning. People think that you fall in love and you ride that wave for the rest of the relationship. You fall in love over and over and over again. And we've had this conversation before.
Yep.
But in the midst of all that, I'm also learning lessons about how to love and how I had to learn because I'm very good at arguing. I'm very good. If you're my friend on social media,
Right, you know.
You've seen the 200 comment discussions on things or whatever, and that's something I had to get away from also. But the way I talk to a stranger is not the way I can talk to my spouse. Number one, just because this is somebody I love, it's not a stranger. But number two, I know that I'm good at arguing. If she's not good at arguing,
It doesn't mean her
it
point.
doesn't mean her points. It doesn't mean that I'm right.
It doesn't mean that.
It just means that I'm better at arguing. So I can back in the day, we would get in an argument and I would just make her feel small. Because that's how I knew to argue. You know, use certain tones and do these things and make these certain points and not, you're chopping somebody down or whatever. I had to learn to be considerate of her specific strengths and weaknesses. She's not the greatest arguer. So I can't come into this, full-blown argue champion mentality and she's just getting beat up on. It doesn't make sense to me to
But
do
as a
that.
society, how much better would we be if everybody lived according to those principles? Like
That's
teachers,
gotta be
right?
Right.
Teacher said, this kid is smart. This kid has test-taking skills. It's literally the same thing that he just said. This kid is good at taking tests. This kid sucked at taking time.
I think part of it is societal, though. We live
It
in a
is,
capitalist society. Now, I think
Right.
from the time we're kids, when we receive letter grades and we receive percentages in front of the rest of the classroom, there's always this competitive thing that they teach us.
You're compelled to win.
Right. So if I knew someone was stronger than me, the reason why I ended up getting big is because I had, older mentors who were big. So I was like, one day I'm going to be bigger and stronger than them. And I think that the goal to show that is to overpower someone, And so I think that our society supports that toxicity. You know what I'm saying? Of being bigger, stronger, manlier, and so it'll be very hard to teach someone who is strong not to,
So maybe
show
the
that.
idea is not that the strength is wrong; it's how it's used
Right,
that's
right.
toxic.
Right.
That's really
Not the strength.
Yeah.
it's not the attribute.
But the only way you can
Yeah.
display it is to use it, though.
But in what way though? Do you use it to
It's
smash
different
somebody
types of
who's
strength.
younger than you, or do you use it to uplift, those who are weaker than you? It's kind of like what you do with the strength.
It's what
is
feeds you and what you allow to be fed. Because if your insecurity is what you're feeding, you understand that the Colosseum was built because a lot of people will come to see a man fight.
Right.
Not a lot of people will come to see a man concede.
Right.
There's no Colosseum for that.
Right.
The victorious one is not the one that says, you know what? How can I get out of this fight? Although that might be the better person, that is not what people want to see. So if you are insecure and you want to be what people want to see, then you will skew toward the overpowering because that's what you want to see.
So let me ask this then. I'm not argue. Let me ask this. Doesn't your strength determine how you execute? Because you said, hey, we're in use the Coliseum thing. Conjo and I, we're set to battle. You're looking at us,
That's
and
gonna be short.
Conjo.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No, but listen,
I wouldn't come for that one.
no. But you
Maybe
look
he's
at Conjo,
faster.
but you look at Conjo, and Conjo is
But you gonna buy the
domineering.
ticket,
You know what I'm saying? He's muscular. He's a big guy. So you're looking at it like, yo,
Right.
physically he should wipe the floor with me. But then you don't know that, hey, I may be hella smarter than him. I may be faster than him. I have other strengths that aren't the physical rah-rah.
I mean, that's how
This
the
is-
UFC got popular, though.
Yeah, because the
With
jujitsu cats
Horace
are smashing.
Gracie, who was 170, they put the
He
Gracie
killed
family
him.
put their smallest brother in a tournament to fight against everyone in the world, regardless of weight class. This and that.
Wow.
And he was
Smashing
beating guys
all.
that was 280 pounds. He beat everyone. He's 175 pounds.
Crushed
Beat
everybody. It's bad. It's
everybody.
bad.
Was
Some people he
dominant.
beat bad.
And that's how the UFC got popular. Is
That's
is
why it's mixed
situations like that.
martial arts.
But see,
People were coming in
even
like,
the
"Oh,
stories,
boxer."
if you go back in the day, one of people's favorite stories in the biblical times was David and Goliath. That story is a story of victory to say that even if you feel small, you still have the ability to overcome something great. But that's the mentality of society.
But in
And the
that
issue-
story, he served the greater good by being victorious, not just his own sense of who he is.
Exactly. And
There was a war that he prevented by doing that.
That's
there
the
was
thing.
somebody who came and said, I'm just going to, instead of these two people, these two cities fighting, let's just have the greatest from both cities fight each other. And Goliath came out because he was huge and because he was known as a warrior, and they sent David. So it's like, okay, this is a real easy win for Palestine. Yeah. So he came out and got beat. So when David beat him, the whole city beat Palestine. And he was able to save people from fighting. That is a reason to fight and a reason to win.
Exactly.
Just to be right is not that reason.
And we probably should talk about broadening the definition of strength, because what we think of as
Right.
strength is very much led by toxic masculinity, the mysterious toxic masculinity.
right,
You know what
right.
I'm saying? We think of as strength as very much this one thing. It's not saying that that's not strength, but strength is a much broader term.
Yeah. It's not all physical strength, but mental strength, emotional strength.
all types of stuff.
Yeah. And I think a key with that David and Goliath aspect is a lot of people, we look at, everybody's inspired by that story, even if you're not Christian, even if you don't read about whatever the case may be, but we look at it as individualistic, and we take God out of that picture. And that's really where the absence is. I mean, I hate to be the Christian, but there's just I hate to be the Christian, but I mean,
I seriously doubt you.
I love it.
Well, if we're
But the
all
truth is-
following a ultimate truth, whatever that may be, the focus is outside of ourselves to something that
Yeah.
can unite from an
Right.
external standpoint.
True, yeah.
So anytime you're doing this, you are both trying to reach the same thing.
Right.
And anytime you're doing this, then you're not trying to reach the same
Right.
thing. I'm trying to reach my good, and you're trying to reach your good.
Right.
And that will always result in a fight.
Exactly. And I call that Jesus and God
Right.
and the Trinity, and other people call it something different. But that's a part of what's missing is we're all just we've internalized this process, and anybody who's blocking my way is an enemy now, and I got to get rid of them.
See,
Right.
that's why you need to have friends, like real friends. And I know I started this conversation off that people throw around words like love and friends that they don't know what it means. But to me, a real friend, if you see me messing up, good, bad, or whatever, whether I want to hear it or not, you're going to pull me to the side. You're going to check me on it. You're going to be like, yo, Trey, like, I see what you're doing. From the outside looking in, this might not be the move. You know what I mean? Sometimes people have perceptions because they don't understand or don't know the inner workings of things that are going on. You just see it from the outside.
Or
So-
you just don't have objectivity. You
Yeah.
look at it from the inside, and somebody else just has a better perspective.
Well, that too. You know what I mean? But so you
If you're in
have
a place to receive that.
You have to be
and,
receptive.
yeah,
A lot
and
of
you
people
have to
aren't.
be receptive,
A lot of
and
people
that's the
A
problem.
lot of people don't know what healthy and whole and
Yeah.
looks like.
And some friends aren't that person that's gonna feel comfortable coming
Right.
to you and saying, "Yo, you messing up" or whatever.
Right.
But
That's not everybody. Because people have this idea that there's one type of friend. If you're a good friend, you'll be willing to go piss your friend off to tell them what's right and wrong. Some people, that's just not their thing.
Yeah,
know what I'm
you
saying?
got to have a friend.
You have to have a friend like that, but that's not all your friends don't need to be that friend.
Right.
So
I got shy friends. They're not gonna come tell me.
Because you happen to be blessed with all.
yeah, I
Yeah,
got
we're up. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect an introvert to come to me and be like, "Yo, you're messing up." You know
So
what
if
I'm saying?
society supports toxic masculinity, which we kind of all agree on, how do we reframe it, and how do we make it not so prevalent?
Shows like this one.
We're
Yeah,
already-
yeah. But you
Listener
also have to,
supported.
it's very cliche, but you have to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it starts in the home. It starts with you personally, and as you make changes and grow and discover yourself, that energy and that understanding and clarity is going to rub off to the people that are in your immediate circle. So that'd be your wife, your children, whoever else it may be in the home, and then the people that's in your next ring. They will see that. They will see the growth. They will see the changes that you're making. Like you said, I just have, y'all just happen to all be assholes. And y'all are going to say what needs to be said when it needs to be said, regardless of the time or whatever. Like, I'm really different. And you and I had this conversation the other day. Because my thing is, as long as you're getting your message across without being disrespectful, as long as you're getting your message, I don't care.
You can actually be a little disrespectful. As
Yeah,
far as I'm
but
concerned, you can be a little
your
disrespectful.
delivery doesn't.
You just got to be right if
Yeah,
you're disrespectful.
right. Yeah, 'cause
Right.
the delivery for me
Like if
personally
you're cussing me
ain't
all the way
problem.
out, your point has to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Better be real
But-
good.
but-
I'm
make
like,
sure
but I
there's a
can't
point.
argue with that. And the reason they're so angry is because they're so passionate about my well-being, and I can't take that from them just because they're cussing me out. So I'm not gonna get affected by the words. I'm just gonna listen for what it is they're
What's
trying
being
to say
said.
and adjust.
But most people don't operate like, oh my gosh, you're cussing at me. I'm missing everything you're saying. Like, no.
You gotta know who you're talking to, know the
Yeah.
audience.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and that's why I say, me personally, like I say,
That's true.
we said it on the show a zillion times. Y'all damn sure has said things to me that I didn't want to hear in that moment. I said it to my mom on the phone the other day. My mom would say stuff to me. She was like, I don't think you didn't listen to me as a kid. I'm like, no, in my 30s, them lessons creep back in. You know what I mean? Like, oh dang, she was right about A, B, C, and D. You know what I mean? It's just things that at that time I didn't understand because I hadn't lived enough life to be able to see the things that other people were pointing out or could say to me.
And I think we were talking about the how do we start to make the change in society of creating or redefining masculinity and creating a more healthy version of it. I think one of the things is that those who have a gift for teaching need to teach.
Yeah.
Like
Amen.
it, you know,
Yeah.
I personally have a gift for insight. I get insights into things deeper than the average person, I would say. I realized early on that it was my responsibility to share those insights. It doesn't, and when I say teach, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to take on the mantle of teacher or give yourself a title or make yourself some type of official. Just speak on your personal perspective on things all the time. I always speak on my personal perspective. Whether you agree with that or not is whatever, but I'm providing my perspective. I'm adding it to the mix. You know, I'm just adding in a different influence. You know, so if my perspective on masculinity is that this toxic form of masculinity is actually fragile and flexibility is actually strength,
Absolutely.
then that changes the
Glass
narrative.
versus steel.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm contributing. I'm having these conversations and I'm speaking about that. That's something you can do at home as well. You don't have to necessarily get a podcast or write a book or whatever. You can just start to provide your own perspective in your interactions with other humans, and you'll change little by little.
Right
love
in the
the,
corner where you are.
Even though I will say this, I'll let you go back to it. For those people who have written a book like Messages to Self,
Hey, come on now.
you should make sure you go cop Messages to Self. You should make sure, when people do shows like the Filter Free Show, you tune in and spread the word.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Subscribe.
It makes you subscribe and like, because the reality is, even though these are little things and we joke and laugh and whatever, there's still a point to this. Like, I've watched every show that we had posted and the ones we don't, probably about 1,000 times since we did it, and I get something different from it every single time. We, you know what I mean? It's a lot of gems and a lot of jewels. So make sure y'all, not just y'all, like we do the same thing. Like I just rewatched What Men Need to Know, and I was like, yo, I was there for that. And like this resonates differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I said, Bluetooth said it on episode 1, I think. We may not be right. We just giving you our perspective and our view on how we see this. So we could be completely wrong about toxic masculinity.
You gotta be brave enough to
Cuss us out in the comments.
Yeah, like
tell us.
tell us. Like, cause y'all don't understand how much we want that. Like,
Yeah.
please.
And we do this knowing that we may not be right. That's another thing to realize is if you're hesitating because you don't want to be wrong, that's not the right way to go about this.
All the time, guys.
We're going. I understand that in the midst of all of my bull, there might be a gem for you. So I could be wrong with half the stuff I'm saying today, but I might be right about the other half. The other half.
And the crazy thing about life that everyone needs to know is most gems are not in a pile of gems.
Yeah, nah.
You gotta go.
Gems come in a pile of rocks.
That's real.
I mean, every diamond was
You a pile of
came
rocks.
from gold.
It's surrounded by
So
gold.
you gotta speak your perspective without worrying about being right. The important part is that it's your perspective.
Right.
That's what we need is your perspective. We don't need your correct information.
And it's
We just need your perspective.
Hey.
Filter free. You know what I'm saying?
Filter free.
I mean, you see, we added another voice just to make sure we had another perspective that y'all could gravitate to and learn from. Like, that's the point of this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, I think we all can say we've done something from a toxic perspective.
Many things.
Still.
Never.
Never.
I'm the worst one.
I think that's
probably
one
the
of,
worst.
I think that's hopefully one of the most important things that any man who's watching this specifically, please take time out of your life to reflect on yourself.
Yeah.
Who you are, where you are, look at your actions, look at your responses. Do you respond to conflict in a normal way? Do you even know what it is to respond in a normal way? How do you, please take more time to think about these things and address them in your own life, because we have to
And the
start to create
objective
pictures
isn't
of-
what's most correct. The objective is what's most profitable. And I don't mean that from a monetary standpoint. What is the greater good?
Right.
How does everybody win in the situation? And what is my part to play that facilitates the winning of everyone? That's that to I guess a good person is what profitable really means. It doesn't mean making money. It's what's profitable for everybody. How does everybody come out of this better than they came into it? How can I act and contribute to that instead of something else?
Right.
And something else I wanted to add was, I don't want anybody to think this is like the anti-violence episode.
No.
Right? Don't get the wrong
We love
impression.
violence.
All right.
We love violence here.
So what we're saying is think. Think before you act.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If this is something I tell people all the time. It's not about what you're about to do. It's whether it's appropriate. Right?
Yeah.
So if I think first and say the appropriate response is to slap you in the face, then make peace
By
with
all means.
Make peace with it and then swing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
swing.
But think first. You know what I'm saying?
There's consequences.
Yeah, and
You know what I'm saying?
people aren't.
Think about it first.
People don't worry about the consequences. They only
Count
focus
the
on
cost.
But love is really
Right.
even the thinking has to be done through the filter of love.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Because when you love,
Even your
then
slap.
you're gonna.
It tempers those things.
You know,
That's
Right,
like
like
a
that.
loving slap.
And if you want to dig into it deeper, go. You don't have to read the whole Bible if you don't want to, because I know how people start thinking I'm trying to convert them or something.
Don't take some time.
But go read 1 Corinthians 13 in the Bible, and you
Oh,
will see
yeah.
that there is nothing in there that is self-seeking. There's nothing in there that explains love. That's about what can I get out of this. It's always about what am I bringing to this situation, to this person, to this group of people. Love is an action word that's always externalizing.
Yep.
I want to bring you advantage and hope and truth and whatever it is. So
Let me ask you guys, kind of like a homework assignment. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but
No.
is it
Yeah.
possible for us to come
Not
up and
really.
say with like a list of 10 questions that you would ask yourself, or we could ask ourselves? Because you said people don't necessarily. If you don't know that you're toxic, or that you may have toxic traits, but you're hearing what we're saying, and it's like, hold on, do I fall in this? But I don't know where to look. I don't know where to start. Could we come up? I mean, maybe 10 is too many. But it's 5 questions that we could say, hey, you know what? This is what I would ask myself to start this journey, to start this
I
walk.
like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm saying we could post it later, but just something for us to think about doing, because I know I've had to have that self internalization and conversations with myself and have to look at things, and I'm like, in the beginning it wasn't easy. Like nobody wants to look in the mirror at themselves and be like, dude, you're messing up, or you're weak in this area. You know what I mean? You should do better. You know, I just happen to have a great support system around me that when I do have moments of weakness, that I have someone like, yo, hold up, you good? What's going on? Like people that genuinely care. So I know for just personally, when I'm dropping the ball personally, I got a group of folks that can check me, but don't everybody have y'all, and don't everybody got access to y'all on a regular basis.
Well, they do if you guys can email us. At
Right. I mean, hey, that's the question. I'm answering.
Beacon_HRS.
I mean, go
please.
look at the screen.
BluetoothUniversity.com.
Yo, definitely
Free
sign up for
plugs.
that.
Add messages
Conjo
yourself.
Hakeem.
Come on now.
Sure.
Conjo
You can hit me.
Hakeem.
Add Landmark Music. Come on, Mr. Burger.
Just know I charge.
Right.
The first session is free. He
I'm
said.
free,
First
but
one
you know, I might have to refer you to a specialist.
yes, to your question, I'm happy to.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
try to,
yeah.
I think we should, because
Yeah.
And we can post. Maybe
yeah, we can
that
post it,
list.
because I really with this, while we do shameless self promotion at times and have fun, I do want this to be something that people can get something from
Right.
and grow
Right.
from, whether it be mentally, spiritually, what have you. Like, and I can't wait to have a spiritual religious conversation with you,
Uh-oh.
because I mean, he was a former he used to practice Islam. You know what I'm saying? He was part of the NOI.
Yeah.
The rest of us are Christians, and
I'm
then
an ex-atheist.
and
Ex-atheist.
Oh,
ex-atheist.
so I might have an ally over there.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it one day.
Yo, I'd like to vote that we don't just post that we read our questions on the air
That's
and
dope.
talk
Okay.
through them.
Because for me, it's this is gonna be a labor of love, y'all. Because this is a hard question for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the 5 questions I would ask myself. The
Right.
process of becoming who I am now took years and years and years.
Yeah.
So to simplify it down into 5 questions is going to be very difficult for me. So I just hope you guys appreciate it, because I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I think we need it. I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's the episode.
like
right there.
the crazy part about
That's a
this.
good idea.
The crazy
We
part
do it on
about this
episode.
is, like, I have literally watched these 3. Sorry for you two, but these 3 grow. Like this dude, when I met him, oh my gosh! Like,
Oh, look, I told you.
there is a reason he is the R&B monk.
Now remember, I told you that I was a nice guy and I saw jerks winning and I decided to become one. Now mind you, I was an intelligent person, so I excelled at being a jerk. Right? It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm kind of jerky, like, you know what I'm saying? Like no, I I was, I'm not only the client, I'm the president of this club. You know what I'm saying? I was not a nice person. I still had innately, at the core of my being, my natural self was a nice person. So I still was helping the less fortunate and doing these things, but I was also hurting people like all the time. All the time. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And I think if anybody wants some help with questions, there's the 42 Confessions of Mayat, which is like it's from Egyptian religion, and it's 42 confessions that you say to yourself that are questions for yourself. Did I do this? Did I do that? And it's very interesting to get those questions. Yeah, very similar to the Ten Commandments. Only it's a confession to yourself.
Like, when I say growth,
I just help somebody.
Y'all don't understand the growth. Like when I first met Conjo, he wasn't talking to me like that. Conjo more like, yo, you should read this. Like that just wasn't where he was during that time.
Period. You should read. Nah, he wasn't.
He wasn't doing that. I mean, Brandon believed in God when I met him, but his walk with God over the last 3 years is not how it was the first 3 that I knew you. And I'm not saying you was a bad dude at all, but your walk is different. I just had the luxury of meeting James about a year ago now.
He was a dirty dog. I just met James. I just met him today. I don't know nothing about that man. I think like a good dude to me.
Honestly, I think James is probably the nicest person.
Yeah, for sure.
I just proved James.
He's dethroned
I'm not. I still have some mean tendencies.
Yeah.
See, when you really, really know God, right? Some of that stuff is all right.
Yeah.
You need to read the Bible a little bit.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing.
Balance.
It wasn't all, turning water into wine and passing it back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When you get real spiritual, then you're like, it's okay for me to do that. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta flip a table.
It's
Sometimes you gotta flip a table.
Don't think
You
the
can't flip no
spirituality
tables.
makes you sweet. You know what I'm
You
saying?
gotta flip a bigger table. You gotta flip like a dining room
It
table.
makes you free.
Not a folding table. Not a folding table. You
Conjo gonna flip the foundation.
What are y'all doing in there?
Some furniture moving today. But no, so listen. This is just us scratching the surface of toxicity, toxic masculinity, toxic relationships, toxic thinking, toxic femininity.
That's tough, man. That's tough.
DJ D-Rec dropped the beat. So, but we just scratching the surface. And it's a lot that we want to get into. As we said, we're going to bring you the questions that we will ask ourselves to you. Matter of fact, next time we record, you guys, let's have that ready so we can go ahead and address it, because this is amazing, because I really want to see what you guys would ask yourselves. Like, part of it's because it's being nosy, but y'all might be asking yourself something that I haven't even considered or thought to ask myself. So I look forward to that. But this was a dope episode. I enjoyed this. It was fun being toxic. No Brittany.
Yeah.
She just broke her leg or something in the club. Maybe we just, maybe we just leave her alone.
Listen, we here for
Leave
this.
her alone. What's the deal with the crying face? Leave Brittany alone. Yeah.
So when we come back, we'll get right back into it. We still having so much to get into, as Brandon suggested off camera a second ago, that we really need to delve into emotions and what emotions look like for men and what they should be for men. So we'll get to that when we come back. But this episode, part 1 of Toxicity, was hella good. Y'all got questions? Shoot us a message. If y'all have comments, leave them. If you really hate what we said, share this. Please share this so all of your friends can hate us too. Hate. You know what I mean? That's really what we're doing this for. Because if y'all hate, that means we said something that has struck a chord with you. Because we don't get emotional over anything unless it actually strikes a chord with you. So we'll be back next time talking about the men emotions. This is Toxicity.